Picture this. You're at a glamorous company party, feeling out of place, while your wife lights up the room with her charm. Then, out of nowhere, a stranger strikes up a conversation and casually reveals a secret that shatters everything. Your wife's betrayal, right under your nose. What starts as disbelief quickly turns into a whirlwind of heartbreak, revenge, and self-discovery. This is the story of how I uncovered the lies, exposed the truth, and found the strength to rebuild from the ashes. It's not just a story of betrayal. It's a story of taking back control. Stay with me. You won't want to miss what happens next. The party was in full swing, buzzing with chatter and the clinking of glasses. I stood by the corner, clutching my drink, trying to blend in, but feeling completely out of place. Sophia, my wife, was effortlessly charming the room, graceful, magnetic, everything I wasn't in this corporate world she thrived in. She worked the room like a seasoned diplomat, her laughter floating across the sea of well-dressed strangers. I sipped my drink, wishing I could shrink into the wallpaper. I scanned the crowd, hoping to catch her eye, but she was engrossed in a conversation with a group of executives. Their laughter felt rehearsed, like the setting, perfect on the surface, hollow underneath. For a moment I wondered why she had even brought me. Was it out of obligation, or was I just another accessory in her carefully curated life? As the evening dragged on, I retreated further into my thoughts, tuning out the party's hum. That's when a man approached me, smiling broadly, with a casual confidence that I envied. I didn't know it then, but this stranger, Mateus, was about to pull the rug from under my world. Something in his easy demeanor unsettled me, though I couldn't quite put my finger on it yet. Mateus strolled over like he owned the room, holding a drink that matched his swagger. He introduced himself casually, calling me Sophia's husband, like I didn't even have a name of my own. I laughed awkwardly, unsure of how to respond. His presence was magnetic, but something about him made my skin crawl. Too charming, too smooth, like he'd perfected his act long ago. We exchanged small talk, and he began talking about the office, casual gossip that I barely followed. Then out of nowhere, he mentioned how he'd been seeing a married woman from work. He said it so nonchalantly, like it was some open secret everyone was in on. I froze, forcing a laugh to mask my unease. Surely he wasn't talking about Sophia, right? That would be insane. But the way he described her, successful, stunning, the life of the party, was like a checklist of everything I admired and now questioned about my wife. I didn't let my face betray me, but inside, alarms were blaring. Mateus had no idea who he was talking to, and I had no idea what I was about to uncover. Mateus chuckled and leaned in, as though he were about to share some juicy secret. "She's amazing," he said, grinning like a kid with a stolen cookie. "We've got this thing, you know. Nobody suspects a thing, not even her husband." The words hit me like a sledgehammer. My breath caught in my throat. I forced a smile, my heart pounding so loud I was sure he could hear it. I nodded along, pretending to find his story amusing. "Oh, really?" I asked, my voice strained but steady. I wanted him to stop talking, but some part of me needed him to keep going, and he did. "Sophia's got everyone fooled," he said with a smirk, swirling the ice in his glass. Hearing her name confirmed everything I'd been afraid to admit. The room seemed to shrink, the noise around us fading into a dull hum. My mind raced, piecing together moments that now felt glaringly obvious. Mateus clinked his glass against mine and walked away, oblivious to the bombshell he'd just dropped. I stood there paralyzed, wondering how I was supposed to breathe, let alone act, after what I'd just learned. That night, I couldn't sleep. Sophia lay beside me, her breathing calm and steady, while my mind spiraled. Every laugh she shared with Mateus, every late night she blamed on work, it all came rushing back. Was I imagining things? Or had this betrayal been staring me in the face the whole time? I needed proof. Without it, I'd never confront her. The next day, I waited until Sophia was in the shower before picking up her phone. My hands trembled as I scrolled through her messages, the screen blurring as I found exactly what I'd feared. There they were, texts from Mateus, full of inside jokes and half-hidden affection. My stomach turned. Every word felt like a punch to the gut. Yet I couldn't stop reading. I knew I needed more than just texts. That's when I had the idea to install a tracker in her car. It felt extreme, even paranoid, but the gnawing doubt was worse. If she had nothing to hide, I'd feel foolish. But if she did, well, at least I'd know the truth. I told myself I was taking control, but deep down, I wasn't sure if I was ready for what I might find. It didn't take long for the tracker to give me what I was dreading. A notification pinged on my phone while I was at work. Her car parked at a motel on the other side of town. My stomach dropped. I stared at the screen, hoping it was some mistake, but the blinking dot didn't lie. This wasn't a work lunch or a business meeting. I knew exactly what it was. I drove there in a haze, gripping the wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. Pulling into the lot, I spotted her car immediately, parked neatly next to another vehicle, his. My chest tightened as I fought the urge to storm in. Instead, I stayed low, watching, waiting, capturing photos with trembling hands. The evidence was there, clear as day, but it didn't make it hurt any less. When they finally emerged, laughing and carefree, the sight of them together felt like a knife twisting in my gut. I snapped a few more pictures, then ducked out of sight. I'd come here for proof, and I had it. Now, I just had to decide what to do with it, and whether I could handle the fallout when I did. I didn't plan on confronting him so soon, but my anger had other ideas. As he walked toward his car in the motel parking lot, I stepped out from the shadows, my heart hammering in my chest. "Mateus, right?" I said, my voice sharp enough to cut glass. He froze, his smirk vanishing as he registered who I was. For a moment he tried to play dumb, but I didn't give him the chance. "I'm Sophia's husband," I said, each word heavy with the weight of my rage. His face paled, and he stammered out some excuse, but I wasn't interested in his lies. I told him to end it. Whatever they thought they had, it was over. My tone made it clear I wasn't asking. Mateus muttered an apology, his arrogance crumbling under the pressure. But as he drove off, I couldn't shake the feeling that he wasn't done, that they weren't done. I'd confronted him, but the real battle was waiting for me at home. I had proof, but how do you confront the person you thought you knew best in the world? When I got home, Sophia was sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone like nothing had changed, but everything had. I stood in the doorway, holding the photos I'd taken, my hands trembling, not with fear, but with the weight of what I was about to do. "We need to talk," I said, my voice steady despite the storm brewing inside me. She looked up, surprised by my tone, but before she could say anything, I placed the photos on the table between us. Her eyes widened as she realized what they were. "Care to explain?" I asked, leaning back, giving her no room to wriggle out. She stammered, trying to string together excuses, but each word felt emptier than the last. Sophia finally admitted the truth, tears streaming down her face. She begged for forgiveness, swearing it had been a mistake, a lapse in judgment. But her words didn't touch me. I told her it was over, plain and simple. The betrayal had already hollowed out our marriage, and there was nothing left to salvage. For the first time, I felt clarity, painful but undeniable. The anger didn't fade, it sharpened into resolve. I couldn't just let this betrayal go unanswered, not when they'd treated me like a fool. Sophia might have begged for forgiveness, but I saw the guilt in her eyes. And Mateus? He'd been so smug, so sure he could toy with my life without consequence. That's when I decided they wouldn't walk away from this unscathed. I spent the next few days carefully gathering everything. Screenshots of their messages, the photos from the motel, and even the timeline from the tracker I'd installed. Piece by piece, I built an airtight case, one they couldn't deny. Then I planned my move. Sophia's workplace was hosting a team event that Friday, and I knew it was the perfect stage for what I had in mind. When the night arrived, I sent an anonymous email to HR, attaching every shred of evidence I had. But that wasn't all. During the event, I found a way to project the photos for everyone to see. Watching their faces crumble, Sophia's shock, Mateus's panic, was a grim satisfaction. It wasn't just revenge. It was justice delivered in front of the same audience they'd fooled for so long. The fallout was immediate, and it was brutal. By Monday morning, Sophia's pristine image at work was shattered. Whispers followed her through the hallways, and HR called her in for a meeting that lasted hours. Mateus didn't fare any better. His charm couldn't save him now. They'd gambled everything, and they lost. Their colleagues, their bosses, even their friends, all of them knew. Sophia came home that evening, her shoulders slumped, her eyes rimmed with exhaustion. She didn't even bother trying to explain this time. The weight of her choices had finally caught up with her, and for the first time, I saw her for who she really was. Flawed, human, and entirely responsible for her own downfall. I felt no pity, just a hollow sense of justice. As for Mateus, I heard he was transferred to another branch, far away, out of sight and out of mind for most people, but not for me. I still replayed the look on his face when the photos went up at the event. I'd gotten what I wanted, retribution. Yet, as satisfying as it was, the emptiness lingered. Revenge might be sweet, but it doesn't fill the void. Betrayal leaves behind. In the days that followed, the house felt quieter, too quiet. Sophia moved out, leaving behind a few boxes and an echo of the life we once shared. I stood in the empty living room, staring at the space where her laughter used to fill the air. The anger had faded now, replaced by something more sobering: acceptance. What was broken couldn't be fixed, and I wasn't sure I even wanted it to be. I thought back to the person I was before all this, naive, trusting, blind to the cracks forming around me. The betrayal had torn me apart, yes, but it also forced me to rebuild. Slowly, piece by piece, I started to reclaim who I was, free from the shadows of lies and deception. Freedom didn't come easily, but it was worth fighting for. As I stepped into the next chapter of my life, I felt lighter. The pain still lingered, but it wasn't a burden anymore. It was a lesson. I'd been betrayed, humiliated, and left to pick up the pieces, but I survived. More than that, I grew. The future felt uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, it also felt like mine.
Keep watching our stories by clicking on one of the videos that appear on the screen, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to be alerted about new videos. See you next time.